And to complete the most significant news for this day, Y News continues. Here are the top stories. The Department of Foreign Affairs, or DFA, through the Philippine Embassy in Tripoli, has advised Filipinos in Libya to be vigilant after the recent suicide bomb attack at Libyan Ministry of Foreign Affairs on Tuesday. In a statement posted on its official Facebook page, the embassy wishes to reiterate to the public to take the necessary precautions following the said incident. The statement further read, the embassy advises the public to continue to take utmost care and precaution, stay indoors as much as possible, and avoid all but the most necessary movements. 3 suicide bombers attacked Libya's foreign ministry, killing at least 2 other people dead as well as themselves, according to authorities. Following the suicide attack, the Philippine Embassy encourages Filipino nationals in Libya to communicate as it opens its lines for whatever assistance they may need, and that full staff complement is in Tripoli and ready to assist the community for any eventuality. In the event of an emergency, Filipinos may reach the embassy through 218-91-824-4208 or tripoli.pe@dfa.com. Meanwhile, the Philippine National Police have identified 6 persons of interest in the murder of Ako Bicol Party List Representative Rodel Batocabe and his police aide SPO1 Orlando Diaz. However, PNP Chief Oscar Albayalde refused to divulge their names amid ongoing investigation. The PNP also revealed that they have already collected testimonies from 6 survivors from the incident, but these are not yet enough to establish a suspect. Police investigators are also not discounting the possible role of the New People's Army in the crime, as well as the idea that Batocabe's political rival is involved in the incident.
Alam mo naman pag politika, you always point to the opponent. Palaging ganon, di ba? So, sabi ko nga, we in the PNP, we cannot speculate. No, hindi tayo pwede mag-speculate because we cannot link this person yet because of lack of substantial evidence.
Albayalde also admits it remains a challenge for the PNP to solve the case, as witnesses are afraid to come out and testify despite the 32 million peso reward money.
So far, wala pa nga. Sana nga makatulong, no? What we were able to establish, no? Itong mga assailants nanggaling sa likod. So ibig sabihin, itong mga to nanggaling din dun sa crowd. So there's a big possibility na yung mga tao doon sa crowd na yon ay kilala itong mga assailants na to, and yet walang gustong magsalita.
Meanwhile, Malacanang calls the Communist Party of the Philippines' 50 long years of rebellion as a failure, citing loss of lives of Filipinos and massive destruction of government infrastructures as fruits of its existence. The CPP marks today its 50th anniversary, but Malacanang says the group's uprising only resulted to the death of numerous Filipinos who could have served the country in productive means. And while others die for a lost cause, the palace says their leader, Joma Sison, remains ensconced in his ivory tower of comfort and luxury. Malacanang also tells Sison that it is time to surrender before his health gives up on him, as there is honor in returning back to a democratic society and embracing the constitutional order. Meanwhile, AFP Western Mindanao Command says the communist rebels have no reason to celebrate because their group has done no good to the country.
50 taon ng katarantaduhan, 50 taon ng panluloko, 50 taon ng panggugulo sa buong Pilipinas at dito sa atin, sa area namin, dito sa Western Mindanao Command. 50 taon din yung kanilang mga panggugulo at pasakit. Hindi lang sa gobyerno, mas lalo na or mas mahigit sa ating mga kababayan.
The National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council advises local government units to prepare for the possible effects of Tropical Depression Usman. Based on the latest report from the State Weather Bureau, Pag-asa Tropical Depression Usman has slightly intensified as it continues to move closer to eastern Samar. It was spotted east-northeast of Hinatuan, Surigao del Sur, with maximum sustained winds of 55 kilometers per hour and gustiness of up to 65 kilometers per hour. The storm is expected to bring rains and thunderstorms in parts of Visayas and Mindanao, while Batanes, Babuyan Group of Islands, and Ilocos region will experience light rain showers due to the northeast southeast monsoon. The tropical depression will exit the Philippine Area of Responsibility or PAR on Monday morning. The NDRRMC calls on residents in affected areas to prepare for possible flooding and landslides.
Yun ho ang ating papaalala, palagi ho tayong maghanda para kung magkaroon man po ng pagbaha at yung landslide tayo ay nakahanda.
In other news, the number of injuries due to the use of firecrackers has increased to 24 since the Department of Health started its monitoring last week. Data from the DOH firework-related injury surveillance report showed that from December 21 to December 25, 2 people have ingested fireworks while 22 sustained burns and blast injuries. The DOH expects this number to rise until the first week of January 2019. In line with this, the DOH urged revelers anew to immediately seek medical treatment, as any open wound such as a burn or a cut caused by a firecracker is more prone to tetanus infection. In case of firework-related injuries, the wounded part of the body must be washed with clean water. Do not apply toothpaste or anything to the wound. Wrap it with clean cloth and immediately bring the victim to the hospital.
So basta tayo ay naputukan, kahit minor lang siya, nasunog tayo, kailangan talagang pumunta sa ospital kasi bibigyan ka ng anti-tetanus na injection. Kasama yung toxoid at yung anti-tetanus serum.
The Department of Health reports a big number of firework-related injuries every year, with some even needing amputation after sustaining critical wounds. In the hope of preventing this from happening, a Filipino inventor created an alternative noisemaker that the public can use for year-end festivities. Inventor Francisco Pagayon came up with an electric firecracker which creates sounds like a real firecracker. One of his latest inventions, named Digong, looks like a cannon, while another called Mocha can be likened to a whistle bomb. He also made a firecracker that resembles a train and releases noise like a gunfire. These electric firecrackers do not leave behind a stench of smoke and can also be used as home decorations. The price of these electric firecrackers ranges from 1,800 pesos to 7,000 pesos.
Pumuputok po yan sa loob ng 45 seconds to 1 minute. And then afterwards, pagka na ipahinga natin at least 2 minuto hanggang 3 minuto, pwede po natin sindihan uli at muli po na mag-trigger at puputok po siyang muli.
The Eco Waste Coalition, on the other hand, suggests to just use pots, pans, and toy trumpets to save money, but advise parents to supervise their children while playing with toy trumpets, as these might contain parts that are choking hazards. Henry C. remains the wealthiest Filipino based on the list of top 10 richest people in the Philippines for 2018 released by Forbes magazine. Former Senator Manny Villar claimed the number 2 spot, which is a sharp climb from the 10th place last year. John Gokong Wei slipped to number 3 from number 2. George T. to number 9 from the 4th spot last year. Lucio Tan to number 7 from the 3rd rank, and Andrew Tan to number 10 from number 8. Enrique Razon Jr. and Tony Tan Cactiong maintained their spots at number 5 and 6 respectively. Jaime Zobel de Ayala and Ramon Ang also made it to Forbes' top 10 Filipino billionaires list this year. And for the news abroad, here's Stephanie C. live from Hong Kong. Stephanie, good evening.
Good evening, William. Scores of tsunami survivors, including those who still have intact homes to return to, are temporarily taking shelter at an Indonesian futsal stadium in Banten. Kath Dumaraos tells us why.
Over 1,000 survivors of a devastating tsunami in Indonesia that killed more than 400 people were camping out on Wednesday at a futsal stadium in Labuan on the western coast of Banten province. People were staying in tents and temporary shelters, sometimes in a mosque or school. Dozens were sleeping on the floor or in crowded public facilities as volunteers prepared food to serve the masses, and children were kept entertained with songs and games. Though some may have intact homes to return to, they said they are still too scared to go back to their houses.
I will stay here as I feel really scared, and I will wait until the government says the situation is completely safe for us.
bener-bener udah aman gitu.
I've been staying here since Sunday. I'm too afraid to stay in my house because of this disaster.
Humanitarian workers warned that clean water and medicine supplies were dwindling as thousands crammed makeshift evacuation centers. Meanwhile, Rifian Fajarsha, the lead singer of 17, a band that was struck by the tsunami mid-concert, buried his wife Dylan Sahara on Tuesday. Meanwhile, a drone video footage Tuesday reveals the serious devastations in Carita in Banten province left behind by a deadly tsunami. Carita, including 10 villages, received the brunt of the tsunami, with farmlands being severely damaged, a huge signal tower collapsed, and many houses completely or partly destroyed. The tsunami, triggered by an underwater landslide after the eruption of the Anak Krakatau volcano Saturday night, has killed 429 people and injured 1,459 others. It also has destroyed 882 houses, 73 hotels and villas, and scores of buildings, and displaced a total of 16,082 people. Kat Tumaraos, UNTV News and Rescue.
Japan is planning to withdraw from the International Whaling Commission and resume commercial whaling from July, abandoning a decades-old campaign to persuade the Commission to allow it to hunt whales commercially. Chief Cabinet Secretary Yoshihide Suga says Japan's commercial whaling will be limited to its own territorial waters and its exclusive economic zone. Suga adds that the catch limits will be calculated in accordance with methods adopted by the IWC. Wednesday's announcement had been expected, but conservation groups warned the move will have serious consequences. A young migrant boy who traveled from Guatemala with his father died after they were taken into detention by U.S. border agents. Meanwhile, the partial U.S. government shutdown due to a political impasse could last longer than expected, according to President Donald Trump. Kath Carriedo tells us why.
An 8-year-old Guatemalan migrant boy died shortly after midnight on Tuesday after being detained by U.S. border agents, the second migrant child this month to die in U.S. detention. The boy and his father were in U.S. Customs and Border Protection custody on December 24 when a Border Patrol agent noticed the child showing signs of illness. The father and son were taken to the Gerald Champion Regional Medical Center in Alamogordo, New Mexico, where the boy was diagnosed with a common cold and fever and eventually released by hospital staff. But later that evening, the boy began vomiting and was transferred back to the hospital. He died at the hospital shortly after midnight, but the official cause of death is not yet known. Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump said the partial shutdown of the federal government was going to last until his demand for funds to build a wall on the U.S.-Mexico border is met. The U.S. government partially shut down on Saturday, and there is not yet any sign of tangible efforts to reopen agencies closed by a political impasse over Trump's demand for border wall funds.
I can't tell you when the government's going to be open. I can tell you it's not going to be open until we have a wall, a fence, whatever they'd like to call it.
Funding for about a quarter of federal programs, including the Departments of Homeland Security, Justice, and Agriculture, expired at midnight on Friday. Without a deal to break the impasse, the shutdown is likely to stretch into the new year. Building the wall was one of Trump's most frequently repeated campaign promises, but Democrats are vehemently opposed to it. Kath Carriedo, UNTV News and Rescue, USA.
An investigation has been launched into the helicopter crash in Puebla, Mexico that killed a Mexican governor and her senator husband on Monday. Meanwhile, Japan condemns the action of a South Korean destroyer that locked its targeting radar on a Japanese patrol plane. Beverly Saison tells us why.
In Japan said on Tuesday that data revealed South Korea has locked its targeting radar on a Japanese patrol plane last week, despite a denial from Seoul. Japanese Defense Minister Takeshi Iwaya said that according to the data collected by Japan's Maritime Self-Defense Force, their P-1 aircraft was indeed locked by a South Korean destroyer last Friday. During Tuesday's news conference, he pointed out that South Korea has a misconception in some of the facts and that considering the seriousness of the case was necessary. Both Iwaya and Japan's Cabinet Secretary General Yoshihide Suga condemned the action and said they have urged South Korea to prevent a recurrence. In Syria, Syrian air defenses intercepted hostile targets near Damascus. Loud explosions were heard in the Syrian capital. The nature of the targets was not clear. Lebanese state-run national news agency said Israeli warplanes performed mock raids above southern Lebanon. And in Mexico, investigations began on Tuesday into the helicopter crash near the city of Puebla in central Mexico that killed a Mexican governor and senator husband on Monday. Martha Erica Alonso, a senior opposition figure and governor of the state of Puebla, died with Rafael Moreno, a senator and former Puebla governor, when their Augusta helicopter came down on Monday afternoon shortly after takeoff. A vigil was held on Tuesday in Puebla to honor Alonso, her husband, and other crash victims. The Puebla government said for now, Puebla's Interior Minister Jesus Rodriguez will be interim governor before elections are held within 5 months. Beverly Saison, UNTV News and Rescue.
And those are the news from the other parts of the globe. Back to you, William.
Thank you very much, Stephanie C., live from Hong Kong. Moscow Metro fans brought out the first bunch of iconic passenger signs on Tuesday, hours after they were put on sale. Enthusiasts and collectors were able to get their hands on iconic no entrance, no change after 1 a.m. and other such signs. The price ranges from 1,500 ruble or around $25 to 10,000 ruble, depending on the condition and historical value. The Metro's first line opened in 1935 with the stations resembling underground palaces. They were decorated with sculptures, bas-reliefs, or colorful mosaics depicting Soviet life or famous historical episodes such as the Russian Revolution, Stalin's rule, and the World War II. Deputy head of Moscow Metro Yulia Temkinohova said more signs will be put on sale. And those are the reasons behind the news, December 26, 2018. On behalf of Rheena, Villamor-Camara, and Angelo Castro III, I am William Thio. Because we need to know, we will always ask why. Good evening.
UNTV, your public service channel.